The history of Native America spans thousands of years and encompasses a rich tapestry of cultures, civilizations, and experiences. This article aims to provide a concise overview of this diverse and complex history. Pre-Columbian era, before 1492. The pre-Columbian era refers to the time before Christopher Columbus arrived in the Americas. Native American history during this period is divided into three distinct time periods: the Paleo-Indian, Archaic, and Woodland periods. The Paleo-Indian period, 15,000 to 8,000 BCE. During this period, the first humans crossed a land bridge connecting Asia and North America, modern-day Bering Strait, and gradually began to inhabit the Americas. These early hunter-gatherers, known as Paleo-Indians, relied on hunting large animals such as mammoths and mastodons for survival.
Archaic period 8,000 to 1,000 BCE. With the extinction of large game, Native American groups adapted to a changing environment and adopted new technologies. They began to practice agriculture, domesticate plants, and establish semi-permanent settlements. The cultivation of crops like maize, corn, beans, and squash revolutionized their way of life and led to more settled communities. Woodland period, 1000 BCE to 1000 CE. The Woodland period witnessed the emergence of complex societies and the development of distinct cultural traditions. Native American groups in regions such as the Mississippi River Valley and the eastern woodlands constructed elaborate burial mounds, engaged in long-distance trade, and created sophisticated pottery art. The Adena and Hopewell cultures were notable examples of this period.
Arrival of Europeans and Colonial Era, 1492 to 1763. The arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492 marked a significant turning point in Native American history, leading to centuries of disruption, conflict, and colonization. European exploration and early encounters, 1492 to 1607. The initial European explorations of the Americas led to encounters between Native Americans and explorers like Columbus, Cortez, and Pizarro, resulting in significant cultural clashes and the spread of diseases devastating to native populations. Spanish conquistadors established colonies in present-day Mexico and Florida, often suppressing the local indigenous populations.
Now the English colonization, 1607 to 1763. The establishment of the Jamestown colony in Virginia in 1607 marked the beginning of English colonization in North America. English settlers sought to establish permanent settlements, exploit natural resources, and convert Native Americans to Christianity. This often led to violent conflicts, such as the Powhatan Wars in Virginia or the Pequot War in New England. Additionally, native populations were decimated by diseases like smallpox brought by the Europeans. The French and Dutch settlements, 1608 to 1763. The French and Dutch also established colonies in North America. French colonists, particularly in Quebec and along the Mississippi River, maintained more nuanced relationships with Native Americans, often engaging in fur trading and intermarrying. The Dutch established New Netherland, present-day New York, which saw some cooperation with native tribes, particularly the Iroquois Confederacy.
American Revolution and Westward Expansion, 1763 to 1865. The period following the American Revolution witnessed the growth of the newly formed United States and its aggressive expansion westward, leading to increased encroachment on Native American lands and severe disruption of their way of life. The Indian removal and the Trail of Tears, 1820s to 1830s. As white settlers increasingly moved westward, the U.S. government implemented a policy of Indian removal, forcibly relocating Native Americans from their ancestral lands to territories beyond the Mississippi River. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 resulted in the infamous Trail of Tears, during which thousands of Native Americans, particularly the Cherokee, were forcibly moved to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma, resulting in significant loss of life.
Expansion of the United States, 1830s to 1860s. Westward expansion led to numerous conflicts between Native American tribes in the United States, as settlers encroached on their lands, and the introduction of railroads disrupted traditional routes and hunting grounds. The Indian Wars, such as the Sioux Wars and Apache Wars, were fought to secure Native American lands for American settlers. Reservation era and assimilation policies, 1865 to 1900. Following the Civil War, Native Americans were often confined to reservations, as the U.S. government sought to assimilate them into mainstream American society. Reservation system and assimilation policies. The reservation system allocated specific lands to Native American tribes that were often remote, economically disadvantaged, and lacked natural resources.
The government implemented policies such as the Dawes Act, 1887, which aimed to divide tribal lands into individual allotments to encourage private land ownership and assimilation into American society. These policies disrupted traditional governance structures and led to widespread poverty among Native communities. Resistance movements. Native groups often resisted these policies and fought for their rights, land, and cultural preservation. Famous examples include the Battle of Little Bighorn, 1876, between the U.S. Army and the Lakota Sioux, and the Ghost Dance movement led by Wovoka in the 1890s, which culminated in the Wounded Knee Massacre, 1890. Native Americans in the 20th century onwards. The 20th century witnessed several changes in Native American history, including legal recognition of indigenous rights, cultural revival movements, and ongoing struggles for self-determination and sovereignty.
American Indian Movement and Red Power Movement, 1960s to 1970s. The American Indian Movement, AIM, emerged in the 1960s, advocating for civil rights, land rights, and the preservation of Native American cultures. The movement contributed to increased recognition of tribal sovereignty and the passage of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act, 1975, granting tribes greater control over their affairs. Native American Renaissance. The late 20th century witnessed a cultural renaissance among Native communities, with a renewed focus on indigenous art, literature, music, and spirituality. Prominent voices such as author Sherman Alexie, poet Joy Harjo, and musician Buffy St. Marie played crucial roles in this reawakening.
Land and natural resource disputes. Native Americans continue to struggle with land and natural resource disputes, particularly surrounding sacred sites, water rights, and environmental issues. The construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota and the subsequent protests led by the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, 2016 to 2017, highlighted ongoing challenges faced by Native communities. The history of Native America is rich and diverse, spanning thousands of years. This condensed account provides an overview of key periods, events, and themes, but it is vital to recognize the complexities and diversity within Native American history and cultures.